Focus. Click the links for Discord and the other links. Arcadian promises to be nice. So someone on Discord was talking about the Matrix and Gnostic Sophia versus the Alpha Omega Trinity of the patrilineal God or patriarchal God. I, of course, didn't know what the hell this guy was talking about, so I looked it up, and the concept of Gnostic Sophia is pretty weird. Pretty weird doesn't even quite go far enough to describe it, but it makes for a deep story universe that you can draw from, even if you stray quite far from the origin. It's Hollywood. That kind of stuff doesn't matter. So if I try to put it in my own words, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I obviously am not worried about that. It deals with not exactly a hierarchy of gods, lowercase, but a reflection or iterations of a reflective hierarchy of the God in other forms, capital letter, like a fractal tree with branches diminishing as it goes out from the main trunk, a pyramid of twinning emanations expressing male and female of the one God. So in some interpretations, it gives you a female twin of the forms of God, perhaps for different applications or to speak to people on different levels. The feminine Mars, Christ, or Odin, which sounds like pretty good story concepts if you're writing comics or making movies. Now we're talking about Hollywood, so the truth doesn't matter. Maybe a female Saturn or Satan would be cool. I'm sure Satan as a woman would go over very well, but it actually would make a lot of sense, no offense. Now, what I think the Discord guy Kenshiro was talking about was that the Matrix 4 will subvert the well-known holy sacred trinity of the far-removed God the Father, who's kind of unknowable, or the Holy Spirit, the ghost, who's strange and mysterious, and the corporal man, or mostly man, in the material world, Jesus Christ, a man, but maybe more in touch with the spirit or reflecting a higher energy than most men. But what God and the Holy Spirit, they're way too far removed for mortal man to wrap his mind around. Christ steps up as a bridge to the divine, a connection from the material to the spiritual. Obviously, I'm no expert on this sort of thing, but the story of Christ to Hollywood is like holy water to the vampires. Even the words Jesus Christ act like a magic spell to the cockroaches, scorpions, and rats that comprise Hollywood. So I think the point he was making, that they were going to subvert everything good and pure and turn it into filth and corruption, which post-2020 riots is a pretty safe bet to make. You can pretty much say that about everything that is going through their hands in some way, shape, or form. Like, even people talk about apps, like we're talking about video hosting apps. And the thing you have to remember is, if it's hosted on Google's or Apple's App Store, then it has to abide by their terms of service. The only app that I know of that is figured out a way around that is Telegram, which is hosted by Google, but Google limits some sites that you can access through the Google downloaded app. So you see that message and it says go download it from the website itself. So it's a weird workaround that kind of works. And Telegram is pretty solid if you want to get on there. So the point is, like something like Gab that is not allowed on the App Store under any circumstances. It tells you it's the real deal. Where things like Parler and Getter and Trovo and Rumble, they're okay, but they're abiding by those that toss. So they're very limited in what is allowable free speech. Because in the terms of these religious concepts, they are the base Lucifer, BASE, and we're on the other side. We're on the side of the angels and the light, the cleansing, purifying, radioactive light. Hashtag turn them to salt or glass. In the original, you had Neo, who's kind of born again. He fell out of the illusory false spirit world, the reflection of Lucifer, to be born into the material world to save mankind. He had a lot of help along the way. Morpheus and Trinity and several of his apostles who had to be sacrificed, and of course the Judas who betrayed him. Matrix was a solid movie, and for 1999 was pretty woke. All the bad guys in the story, Matrix 1, of course, are fair Englishmen, and all the good guys were POCs or women. Even Neo is a POC. Of the crew of this ship, Nebuchadnezzar, you had, I think, 3 Africans, 2 women, mixed Asian, Neo, and then the fair-skinned Judas, what's his face. I look back at the original Matrix now, and I realize what insane propaganda it really was, which in the sequels got even worse. Even in '99, Hollywood was firmly over. But even with the propaganda, they managed to make a very good movie. They introduced the red pill concept. But after you take the red pill, you watch the film again, and you see the film itself is a blue pill. The real red pill film is They Live. But the Matrix red pill concept is fine because the truth is a weird thing. It bubbles to the surface. Even in the Matrix, they show it as a feeling that things just aren't right, that the world around you is a lie, and someone is pushing blue pills. They want you to stay deeply asleep. They're terrified of the cattle awakening. It's like the truth is asbestos fabric and lies are some fungus on the surface. You've got to burn them away to see the truth, but it's there. Hollywood and the power to manipulate perceived reality is so much more powerful than people think. To the point where if you looked at the preachers and the hippies, both essentially saying the same thing in different ways, that the movies were the work of the devil or equivalent. Decades later, I realized that both those teams were right, though they probably wouldn't have agreed with each other at the time. Now even the preachers and hippies have been subverted. The free-thinking, free speech hippies of today are pro-censorship, globalist authoritarians. The left, liberals, and libertarians are terrified to get canceled, doxxed, and have their banks, Twitter, and Google close their accounts. They don't want to be fired and unpersoned for wrongthink. Well, just don't be a wrongthinker, you bigot. Keep in mind, a wrongthinker is simply somebody that they don't like. Anyone that threatens their authority or power, anyone who focuses a little too closely on the men behind the curtain, the Soros, Rothschilds, Charles Schwabs, said you'll own nothing and be happy. Take the blue pill, be good little slaves. If you go against their narrative in any significant way, CNN and the globalist media, the banks will destroy you. This is openly done by Chase Bank and Bank of America and a few others, and the payment processors will deplatform you, and the tech companies will just kick you off. And people just placidly accept it. They don't want to rock the boat. Nobody wants to join the rebel army. Join us, and be labeled by a powerful government / media. And I say / media because it feels like they're becoming one, I don't know, what's a fancy word? I want to use matrix or amalgamation. They're becoming one entity, some weird sycophantic relationship, who seem to control the world and have interests adverse to yours. That's just what you want. Very wealthy, powerful people who have interests adverse to yours and view you as cattle and not human. Oh no, that's not what you want. But, either you join the rebellion or you stay a slave. Because now they call you istophobes. But soon they're going to call you something much, much worse, and put us in re-education isolation camps. They did it in Russia and China, and they will do it here. I saw the Matrix 4 trailer. It looks fantastic. But to be fair, a lot of trailers look fantastic. And to the normie, when the movie comes out, I'm sure it's going to be a big hit. People will probably be back in theaters by then. It will be visually very impressive, but they're going to leave the theater feeling odd. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb with these guesses. And without the desire to rewatch it, because something feels slightly off about the subversion of the original storyline. And if I could remember the name of those witches who, I think they're in Shakespeare, referencing Shakespeare, the Greeks, who they smelled the fumes around the volcano and they prognosticated, divined future pathways, but I can't remember that story. But it would have been cool if I did. But boy goes on an adventure. He learns lessons and he fights the dragons and rescues the girl. But now the girl saves herself. She fights the dragons and she has to rescue the boy because he's so incompetent. So why is he even in the story? They want to show a girl in a lead role where the man is irrelevant. This new presentation destroys the story, and neither men or women want to see the male and female tropes in stories subverted unless it's for comedic effect. In modern films and stories, they try to elevate the feminine and cuck the male, but in all sorts of stories, the viewer doesn't engage with the strong feminine. At least, perhaps more accurate to say that the cucking of the male to lower the male to elevate the feminine doesn't make sense to people. They just kind of scratch their heads with it. It tries to subvert old, very old, ingrained concepts, sometimes millions of years, about the male and female identity and place in nature. They're trying to corrupt millions of years of reality. Their movies are this endless cycle of statistically improbable events that just keep popping up. Every single time it's going to be some variation of a German representation for male bad, blonde hair, blue eyes, or Nordic or English is going to be some kind of evil. And what you see in The Matrix with the agents is, I almost forget the 99 Matrix, which doesn't feel that long ago to me. It was a long time ago, so people might not be as familiar with the films. You look at the agents and, like, what do they look like? Chiseled jawlines and cheekbones. But, like, are they mixed? Are they a mixed mixed race group of people, or are they all this standard Englishmen? I use English as whatever, a standard cliche trope of English man, European male. Bad. And who are the plucky rebel heroes? Well, they're all mixed. Diversity is your strength. It's like 99 Matrix was subversive propaganda even back then. And, like, yeah, you can still watch subversive propaganda and enjoy it. It's like, even after taking the red pills, it's still a good movie. It does a lot of things well, but you look at the messaging and you're like, oh, this was even back in the 99. This is nonsense going on back there. And then you look at the directors and the writers, you're like, oh, okay, that's why. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, click the links to go to the Odysee and BitChute. Like I said, I got a week off from my other channel for medical misinformation about making a humorous video about something that I can't even mention. But that video is on BitChute with a bunch of other offensive content. I will see you guys on Discord and Gab.